You realize you were never planned, don't you? I always pictured having a boy. My dad spat those words right at me, loud enough for the 30-odd relatives scattered across the yard to freeze mid-bite. He was already deep into his 7th beer, swaying slightly beside the shiny new gas grill he'd bragged about for weeks. Behind him, tendrils of charcoal smoke twisted upward like some ironic crown he hadn't earned. Mom had knelt in that same dirt years earlier, planting every single azalea with her bare hands. Aunt Linda's plastic fork clattered against her plate. Macaroni salad splattered onto the lawn like pale confetti. 30 heads swiveled. The air went vacuum still. I didn't blink. Instead I answered, calm as anything, interesting. Because Mom shared a different version with me right before the end. Should I pull up what she wrote? His grip on the beer bottle faltered, you could see the tremor travel up his arm. That single sheet of paper contained a secret he'd smothered for 3 decades. And it didn't merely wreck his Independence Day barbecue. It dismantled every fabrication he'd spun about Mom, about me, about who truly owned the keys to the place he'd lorded over like a king. Before I continue, if this hits home for you, drop a like and subscribe, but only if it actually resonates. And wherever you're tuning in from, comment your city and the local time down below. I want to see who's out there with me. I'm Elena. 29. Critical care nurse in the ICU. Let me rewind 3 years earlier, to the afternoon everything tilted. The 2-story gray clapboard on Elm Street had wide white trim, black shutters, and a deep front veranda that groaned in exactly 4 spots. Mom knew each one by feel. She'd tiptoe across those loose planks every dawn to tend her rose bushes, barefoot, while Dad was still snoring upstairs. She navigated the rooms like a shadow trying not to leave footprints. Growing up, I assumed that was simply how homes worked. Dad, Victor Kane, had his oversized corduroy armchair parked square in the family room, angled straight at the flat screen. Faded olive green, seams splitting along the arms. No one else dared sit there. Not Mom. Not me. Not even Cousin Ray when he dropped by with a 6-pack. It was his command center, the rest of us orbited around it. He decided it all. The AC setting, 69 winter, 78 summer, and heaven forbid you nudge the dial. The TV channels. The shopping list pinned to the fridge. Dinner at precisely 6:30. Mom prepared whatever he demanded, whenever he demanded it, then scrubbed the dishes before he could grumble. She never had her own debit card. Her name wasn't anywhere near the joint account. Every Monday she'd stand in the kitchen doorway while he peeled off 20s from his billfold, counting them aloud like she was ringing up a purchase at the register. I didn't clock how warped that was until high school, when I crashed at a friend's place and watched her mom tap a card at the mall checkout, no phone call, no permission slip required. The house looked magazine perfect because Mom willed it into being. The hanging planters spilling ivy. The little kitchen garden tucked against the fence. The glider she'd rescued from a yard sale and sanded down herself. She channeled every unspoken word into paint, mulch, and cushions. And Dad referred to the whole thing as his domain. My house. My say. That's what he'd snap if either of us dared an opinion. Don't care for it? Door's right there. I hadn't yet uncovered what would change everything. The roof over our heads wasn't his to claim. Victor Kane wasn't layered or mysterious. He operated on 3 ironclad convictions: he was the undisputed boss, women existed to back him up, and questioning either made you ungrateful. What do females even know? He'd mutter whenever Mom floated the idea of a better mortgage rate, or when his sister mentioned current events over turkey, or when I showed him my acceptance letter to the BSN program. Nursing. So you'll spend your days wiping butts. Solid choice for a lady, I suppose. Mom never pushed back. When his volume rose, she'd shrink, shoulders rounded, palms flat in her lap, gaze glued to the placemat. Kid me thought she was just patient. Adult me knows she was surviving. There's one memory that still burns. I was 17. He'd stormed in after a bad day at the warehouse, some shipment mix-up, and turned the venom on me. My report card. My crowd. The hemline of my skirt. His words hammered the kitchen walls. I braced against the sink, refusing to let tears fall. Across the room, Mom sat frozen at the breakfast nook. For a split second her posture eased. A tiny exhale. Relief. Because the target had shifted to me. Then our eyes locked. And the relief curdled into shame, raw, bone-deep shame. Later, after his snores rattled through the vents, she slipped into my room, perched on the mattress edge, and breathed, "I'm so sorry I couldn't shield you better." I mumbled it was okay. It wasn't. The phone rang on a rainy Thursday. I just clocked out from a brutal stretch in telemetry, feet throbbing, scrubs damp with sweat, and was slumped in my beat-up sedan gulping lukewarm latte when her name flashed. Colon cancer. Advanced. She delivered the news in her usual hushed tone, like she was sorry for interrupting my day. The oncologist wants to discuss chemo protocols. I didn't mean to bother you at work. I floored it home. 90 minutes of white-knuckle highway driving. When I pulled up, Dad was in the driveway, waxing his F-150 under the carport, Budweiser sweating on the toolbox. He buffed that pickup religiously every weekend, like it was penance. In the 16 months of Mom's infusions and scans, he never once rode along to oncology. Not once. I did. Every Wednesday. And alternate Fridays. I'd help her into the passenger seat, keep an emesis basin ready for the ride, sit in the chemo bay flipping through drug flashcards while poison crawled into her port. Then reverse the trip, ease her into bed, leave ginger tea within reach. Dad's role? Griping that supper was delayed. During those months, Mom and Aunt Linda started talking more. Calls stretched longer. I'd catch her in the pantry, voice dropped low, "Let me ring you back, Lynn." Then she'd flash me that gentle smile, as if nothing was brewing. I thought they were just catching up. I had no clue they were laying groundwork. He crossed into dangerous territory somewhere around his fourth beer, when his tone slid from casual chat to full on-stage act. He'd claimed his spot by the grill like it was a podium, the gravitational pull of the party. Burgers sizzled as he flipped them one-handed, waving the bottle in the other like a conductor's baton, belting out tales that grew bigger with every sip. Tales of his prime running the parts counter, the classic Chevy he'd rebuilt back in '05, the day he stared down a building inspector in one. All hero narratives, heavy on I and light on anyone else's point of view. By the fifth, he pivoted to family. "You know," he boomed, loud enough to carry over the nearest ring of lawn chairs, "I always figured I'd raise a son. Someone to hand the keys to the shop, carry the name forward." He gave a theatrical sigh, grinning like it was light-hearted. Life had other plans. A ripple of awkward laughs. Donna hovered at his elbow, slipping a fresh can into his palm like she was handing him ammunition. Uncle Ray nodded from his wooden rocker. "Yeah, a boy would have been golden." I sat at the table's distant edge on a rickety metal folding chair, the spare ones dragged out for extras, sinking me lower than the rest. I poked at my macaroni salad, saying nothing. Dad's gaze drifted my way. I watched the shift, the slow build of a man talking himself into courage via alcohol. He squared his shoulders. Cleared his throat with a rasp. Drained half of beer 6 in one pull. Then he delivered it. "You know you weren't planned, right?" He said it standing tall, facing me dead on, volume cranked so it sliced through every murmur, every kid's giggle, every far-off bottle rocket pop. "I always wanted a boy." The backyard froze like someone hit mute on the world. Not a fade-out, abrupt, total. 31 faces turned. Every last one locked on me. Aunt Linda's plate slipped from her fingers. Pasta salad, a dollop of slaw, a deviled egg, all of it tumbling into the grass. She didn't bend to retrieve it. She just stood frozen, fingers still curled around empty air. Dad kept going. "But your mom wouldn't hear of letting you go." He lifted the bottle toward me like evidence. "And see what we ended up with. A nurse who still rents a one-bedroom like she's starting out." A child nearby begged for a sparkler. No one moved to hand one over. Then Donna glided forward from his shadow, holding the thick manila envelope. The quitclaim deed. And a sleek silver pen, the fancy kind agents hand out at signings. Sweetheart? She cooed, in that practiced, honeyed tone agents used to gloss over termite damage. Your dad just needs your John Hancock here so he can handle things with the property. It's what Ellen would have wanted for the family. She set the folder and pen down beside my half-eaten plate, casual as passing the salt. Dad addressed the crowd. This is private family business, folks. My girl's been dragging her feet on straightforward paperwork. All I need is one signature. Done. Uncle Ray, from his chair, come on, kiddo. Sign it. No need to drag this out. A distant second cousin I barely knew whispered, poor Victor. He just wants to hold on to the home. 31 stares. Some pitying. Some squirming. Some studying their shoes. I stared at the pen. At the paper. At my father, planted in the yard my mother had nurtured, radiating the certainty of a man who'd never heard no from the women around him. I felt the sealed envelope tucked against my side in my scrub pocket, thumping like an extra pulse. I lifted the pen. Understand this, in that instant I finally grasped my mother. Completely. This was her daily reality. The invisible calculus your body runs before your mind clocks it. Sign, and the pressure lifts. Agree, and the stares stop. Give him what he craves, and you can walk away, breathe, forget this table ever existed. I saw exactly why she'd spent decades saying yes to a man who earned none of it. Not weakness. Survival. Because refusing turned you into the villain in a room full of spectators who'd already picked sides. Dad watched me grip that pen, and triumph flashed in his eyes. He believed the crowd, the booze, the public shaming had worked its old magic. Don't humiliate me in front of everybody, Elena, he murmured, leaning closer. Almost tender. The same soft threat he'd used on Mom when she wavered. A lawn chair creaked. A toddler fussed. The grill coals snapped. I held the pen for 5 long seconds. Then I placed it down, neatly aligned with the deed's edge, deliberate as laying out sterile tools before a procedure. No. 1 syllable. No shout. No shake. Just clean finality. Dad blinked. What did you say? I'm not signing. Not now. Not anytime. The silence evolved, from stunned to electric, waiting. His face darkened to the shade of the cooling coals. Not shame red. Rage red. The shade I'd known since I was small, the one that once sent Mom retreating to the pantry, easing the door shut. You ungrateful, he bitted back. Glanced at the audience for backup, then at me. You're exactly like her. Stubborn. Pointless. He raised his voice for the witnesses. Your mother left nothing of value. A few trinkets, some wilted plants. That's her mark on the world. And you, he jabbed a finger, you're standing here causing drama instead of doing the bare minimum for the father who gave you everything. Donna reached for his sleeve. Victor, let's maybe. Quiet. He shrugged her off. She retreated a step. Uncle Ray sat rigid. Cousin Marie lifted her toddler closer. Dad pressed on, he'd spent a lifetime claiming the final word, and he sensed it escaping. He dropped his tone to that focom cruelty he'd perfected. Your mother was too fragile to get anything right. Including how she raised you. The quiet was absolute now. I could hear the neighbor's flag whipping in the breeze 2 doors down. That crossed the uncrossable line. Not the barbs at me, I'd carried those forever. But at her. The woman who'd spent her final months quietly arming me for this exact moment. Something inside me clicked solid. I rose. Slowly. Not dramatic. Just upright. I reached into my pocket and drew out the cream envelope first, Mom's careful handwriting, for Elena. When the time comes. Then the notarized copy of the will. Then the county-recorded deed printout. I laid them on the table one by one, like evidence in court. The yard held its breath. I spoke quietly, but every word carried. This house was never yours, Dad. Mom bought it with her family's money, Whitmore inheritance. 190,000. Deed in her name alone. Your name was never on it. Not once in 32 years. Gasps. Murmurs. Uncle Ray leaned forward. I continued. She wrote a proper will. Through an attorney. Probated. Executed. The property transferred to me the day she passed. Sole beneficiary. You're a guest here. You can stay as long as I allow it. But you can't sell. Can't mortgage. Can't sign anything away. Not without me. And you tried. The bank turned down your second mortgage application 18 months ago because your name wasn't on title. Mom found out. That's when she locked everything down. I opened her envelope last. Read her words aloud. My dearest Elena. If you're reading this, the moment has arrived. I couldn't fight him openly while I lived too high a price for all of us. But I could prepare. The house is yours. The trust is yours, 240,000, quietly funded from my share. He never knew. Use it to build the life I couldn't. And remember, you are not an accident. You are.
Craving shocking revenge, chilling horror, and jaw-dropping relationship drama? If you love revenge, horror, and jaw-dropping relationship stories straight from Reddit, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Reddit Tales Time, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. More twists, more drama, more tales, coming up next.